As politics have started peaking over the Citizenship Amendment Act, with several opposition chief ministers stating that they will not implement it, others saying that they will. The government has issued a point-by-point rebuttal to allegations by critics. My colleague Akhilesh Sharma explains the entire issue.
Well, the Ministry of Home Affairs has issued clarifications in Q&A format, and this is regarding the CAA, because the Home Ministry feels that there is some certain opposition from certain quarters because the rules were notified yesterday, and these Q&A are very specific. They say very clearly that Indian Muslims will not be affected by these CAA rules, because all the 18 crore Muslims, they have equal rights as any other Indian living here, and it is also only concerning the migrants who are coming from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan. So this is one point which is very clear. They are saying that there should not be any concern or worry as far as the CAA is concerned. Second point, they are also saying that what CAA is doing is basically reducing the time period, the waiting period for the migrants to take Indian citizenship from 11 years to 5 years. This is the second highlight as per the CAA rules notified yesterday. And also apart from that, CAA has no provision for deportation, because India does not have any agreement with any of these countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan, to repatriate migrants back to these countries. So there is absolutely no question at all about any repatriation or deportation of anybody who is here, who is found to be living in India illegally. So there is no question at all. Nobody will be asked to show any papers. This is very important clarification given by the Ministry of Home Affairs, that whatever is being said in some quarters, some misconception is being created that some people have to show their papers, their citizenship papers. It is absolutely not necessary at all. It is not about showing their papers. This is what the Home Ministry clarification is saying very clearly. And they are also saying that Muslims from other countries can always come to India and seek the citizenship under the current citizenship rules, and there is no bar at all for them to not to seek or not to get India citizenship as per the CAA rules which have been notified yesterday. They are saying that as per the current rules, they can always apply, they can always come to India, and if they are eligible, they will be given the Indian citizenship. So this is very important clarification which has been given by the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is just to allay the apprehensions, because the last time when the CAA was passed by Parliament and signed by President, there were widespread protests across the country, and of course this time around the Home Ministry does not want to take any chances. That's why there should not be any misconception, and that is why this Q&A format has been issued.
All right, Akhilesh Sharma reporting over there. Important clarifications by the Home Ministry, but is that enough for opposition parties in the country who insist that CAA is bad news? Joining us now, Tom Varakan of the BJP, Advocate Pugar Gandhi of the DMK, Suhas Chakma joins us. He is the Director of Rights and Risks Analysis, Riju Datta of the Trinamool Congress, and Ashwini Dubey, an advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you all very much for joining us. Tom Varakan, the Congress party today said that, and I quote, after seeking 9 extensions for the notification of the rules, the timing right before the elections is evidently designed to polarize the elections, particularly in Assam and West Bengal. How would you respond?
Well, to put the things in perspective, there's an election going on every 2 months, 3 months in this country, whether the state election, or they would also say the panchayat or municipal elections are going on. So elections are something that's an ongoing part of democracy. Now, the timing of it is very clearly, the thought process is very clear. The clarifications have been, that you have read out from the Home Ministry is very clear, crystal clear. This is an enabling act. This act enables those who are prosecuted in Islamic republics, the minorities, even our constitutional framers had this in mind. And then there was a letter from Pandit Nehru to the Chief Minister of West Bengal then, asking him to ensure that these refugees coming from this region are rehabilitated.
You haven't quite answered my question. I'm just trying to understand your response to political parties who say that if it's been so many years, why has it been so many years, and why has this been timed to just a couple of weeks before the elections?
We are completing our tenure. This is part of our promises to this country. We have to complete it. We can't go for elections and say, well, we have not done this, we are waiting for the
Okay, I get that. Let me get a quick response to that. Riju Datta, do you accept that this was something that the Prime Minister Amit Shah have said repeatedly that this will get done? It's being done now. So it's unfair to say that the BJP has timed it for the elections. That's what the BJP says. How would you respond?
Mr. Som, first of all, in no uncertain words, I would say that the CAA is unconstitutional, undemocratic, and anti-minority. It is a sucker punch to the basic tenets of the Constitution. Saying that, it is also clearly political jingoism and a carrot and stick policy of the BJP just before the Lok Sabha elections to misguide, deceive, and fool the people of this country. Now, I have just 3 pointed questions at the BJP spokesperson. First question. You are portraying that your heart bleeds for the prosecuted Hindus in neighboring nations or Islamic nations. What about prosecuted Hindus in Buddhist nations like Sri Lanka, Nepal, or Bhutan? Second, what about prosecuted Hindus after 2014 who have been subjected to torture, say, in Pakistan? And third most important question, in Bengal, Motuas who have got voter cards, whose children go to schools, who are in government service, have voted for a BJP candidate who's a Lok Sabha member by the name of Shantanu Thakur and is the shipping minister of India in Modi's cabinet. So are you telling me the people who have made him a cabinet minister or the cabinet minister himself is not a citizen of India, that he needs to apply for CAA? Because as soon as he applies for CAA, he will become an illegal immigrant. So are you saying the cabinet minister of India is not a citizen? And if he's a citizen of India, because he's a cabinet minister, then what is the point of this nonsensical CAA? Can you please explain all this?
Mr. Vadakar, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I will try to answer to him, but if he understands this whole debate, he's been repeating this, I noticed, on different channels. So I think I need to make him rest on this issue. This is about Islamic nations. This is about which even the UN or the human rights don't bother to publish. This is about that section of society who are already in India, settled, and cannot get a ration card, cannot go to a police station, cannot, even get an FIR done because they don't have the necessary citizenship. This is about not one particular section of society in West Bengal. This is about the entire country. You have mentioned a cabinet minister or somebody. Now, they may have citizenship, but I'm talking about those who came from Bangladesh and who are asking for help, being prosecuted. These are not just about Muslims. There are Muslims there. They have a normal system by which they can gain citizenship. Nobody is forbidden from getting. It is a longer time, but this is emergency. They need emergency.
So an emergency in times of time period for none, not an emergency for others.
And now you also mentioned about the fact about undemocratic. What is democracy, Mr. Spokesman of TMC? Issue has been settled in Parliament, cleared in both houses, and then you call it unparliamentary, undemocratic.
Okay, no, one second. I want to go beyond the two of you. I just wanted to go across to Ashwini Dubey for a moment. Mr. Vadakar, I get your point. Let me just keep the strike rotating.
Right.
It has been done and it's part of the law. Ashwini Dubey, the government has said that Muslims have been excluded from the group of prosecuted or persecuted, I beg your pardon, minorities because Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh are Islamic countries. And in these countries, Muslims are in the majority. But then the question that arises is, what about the Rohingya and Myanmar, who are Muslims or minority Muslim sects like Hazaras or Ahmadiyas, who are also persecuted minorities in these countries? So if the word persecution is to be used, why shouldn't they also be allowed to potentially come into our country?
Yes, Vishnu, thank you for having me here. Let us talk about the Constitution first, what the Article 11 says. Article 11 says it's the Parliament which will make the law. Now, if Parliament has made a law, amended the Citizenship Amendment Act, bringing the persecuted minorities of only 3 countries, where is the right of equality? Because right of equality, if we talk about, because your question is completely about the right of equality.
Yes, absolutely.
14 of the Constitution of
But
India.
sir, you better than anybody else know about the right of equality is the basis of law that you have practiced. It is the basis of our Constitution. So how can we look away from the prism of equality?
That's a wonderful question. But question is that Article 14 is the reservoir of right to equality enshrined, but that does not mean that all general laws will be applicable to all sections of people in all countries. Because the Article 14 is subject to laws made by the Parliament. This is one. And the second is article allows reasonable classification of groups or sections founded on intelligible differentia, and such classification.
No, but what is the reasonable classification criteria which applies over here? I've given you very specific examples over here on how there are persecuted communities in these countries who happen to be Muslims, Ahmadiyas or Hazaras. I'm asking you, why should they not be allowed to come in?
This is what, when the Parliament makes a law, see, I am a student of law, and what I understand, if Parliament has taken a decision with respect to anything, that has to
sir,
be...
The question therefore is the law fair? I mean, that's the key point. Mr. Chakma, you had a point. How would you address, Mr. Chakma, the question which I have raised? That if you have to look at the issue of persecution, and given our own constitution, which calls for equality, then it needs to apply equally to all people. Today, the government said that Muslims can apply, but they can apply under the old rules. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, that's absolutely unfair. When you talk about Article 14 and reasonable classification, intelligible classification, please remember all the foreigners who are within the territorial jurisdiction of this country, whether you are a Sri Lankan, whether you are a Myanmarese, whether Pakistani or Bangladesh, you are equal among yourselves. You are not equal with the citizens of the country, but as refugees, as foreigners, you are equal. So therefore, if the principle of equality is to apply, it shall apply to all the foreigners in this country who come for exactly the same reason, which is the persecution. So that's one point. The second point, which I wanted to ask actually Mr. Tom Badakan, is, you guys talking about Citizenship Amendment Act for the people who have come to India by 31st December 2014. I'm asking one particular question. The Chakmas we have brought or came into India in 1964. There is a Supreme Court judgment in 1996. There is a Supreme Court judgment of the same judgment to implement the judgment and give citizenship within 3 months. It was in 2015. And now we are in 2024. In the last 26 years, you have not processed a single application, and the petition is still pending before the Supreme Court, and it has not been heard for the last 5 years once. At least 4 chief justices have changed, and the fear is, and the unfortunate reality is, law has been enacted by the government of India, perfect, but its constitutional validity is being challenged. And this is where the judiciary has failed. And
all right, Mr. Chakma. Mr. Vadakar, why don't you reply? He's given specific examples of how members of the Chakma community who've come into India have not been granted the rights that they seek. So therefore, why the delay, and can they expect justice? That's the question.
Well, Vishnu, I think he has both given raised a question and given the answers too. The matter is sub judice. The government has the will and desire.
The Supreme Court has given the judgment in 96, and another petition was moved.
If it is stuck in judiciary, it is a matter that has to be sorted out there. And I think government, it is not just this government, it has happened from 64.
So that is why my question is, it is not the sub judice. Sub judice, which is something pending. It has already been decided, its review petition has been dismissed. The only issue pending is the non-implementation of the judgment. It's a contempt of court. Of course,
all right.
Congress till now, your position was it is the judiciary that has failed. If it is contempt of the court, why doesn't the court come and take action against the government of that day?
So that is why I'm asking you, why do I need to
the government of that day? How can you blame our government for this?
No,
it is a contempt that is committed at that period of time.
That is why I'm saying. So the government will not implement till I initiate the contempt proceedings. Is that the case? That is the way you are treating.
Why are you taking the present government's
No, it is all the government.
Okay, both of you, 1 second. Let me go across to my other panelists.
It's all the government.
1 second. Let me go across to my other panelists. Advocate Pugar Gandhi, let me ask you this. the challenge to the CAA ultimately rests on the ground that it violates Article 14 of the Constitution. Ashwini Dubey was debating this, but I just, in my research, I've actually got the key quote on Article 14, which says, "The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India." If this is the case, it has to apply to people who come into our country as well, or people who are in our country already, whichever means they may have entered in our country. Do you believe that it is this key statement of Article 14 which might make CAA potentially illegal once there is a judgment in court?
See, Article 14 is one aspect, but there is a larger issue to this implementation of the CAA. Firstly, the timing of the implementation. Secondly, the objective and motive of this particular act. As far as the timing of this implementation is concerned, this is nothing but to deflect the attention from the electoral bond issue, which the Honorable Supreme Court has yesterday given a clear timeline to State Bank of India to disclose the donors. Because BJP is the largest beneficiary of electoral bonds. More than 6,000 crores has been given to BJP through electoral bonds. So it is nothing but the timing is to deflect the attention. As far as the objective and motive of this particular act is concerned, this is nothing but a clear divisive agenda to say that Hindus are being persecuted in the Muslim countries. So Muslims are the villains and we, the BJP, are the saviors of Hindus. Anyone who is coming from Muslim countries will be given whatever the citizenship according to this particular act. This is what BJP is trying to say. See, the problem is, our fear is much larger. Why? You have to see the pattern with respect to how the Sri Lankan Tamils lost their citizenship and become statelessness in Sri Lanka. In 1948, a similar act was passed, that is a Citizenship Act in Sri Lanka, which robbed of the citizenship of Indian origin Sri Lankan Tamils overnight and made them stateless. This led to the ethnic conflict. This is what BJP is trying to do. The BJP want to rob the Muslims of their citizenship and make them stateless so that they will live under a kind of fear.
Okay, one second, Mr. Vadakan, reply to that.
The advocate from DMK should also have read some records. 4.5 lakh citizenships have been given to Sri Lankans, okay? And this is by the government of the day. Now, if that...
I am talking about robbing of citizenship of Sri Lankan Tamils.
The bank bonds.
In Sri Lanka.
Let me tell you,
Let Mr. Thomas Vadakan correct his facts.
The largest beneficiary of this bond has been the DMK. I'm not going into the statistics because it is coming out anyway. You will have to come on record again to say where the resources came, because the SBI bonds are going to be out in the open.
No, but on the issue of
CAA,
CAA,
another debate, and I'll tell you.
That's a separate debate, Mr. Vadakan. Answer the specific point.
Sources of funding that you have received. What is the funding that you have received from the current...
No, but Mr. Vadakan, he has a specific point. Why don't you...
a national debate.
We'll talk about that tomorrow, sir. Let's talk about CAA today. Why don't you reply to a specific question, sir?
I've answered his question. I've said 4.5 lakh citizenships have been given to Sri Lanka.
I am not talking about granting citizenship to the Sri Lankan refugees.
No, let me complete.
I am talking about robbing of...
Mr. Vadakan, half a second. Let him make his point and then you answer.
It is about Christians, it is about Sikhs. If you examine the statistics, Vishnu, you will find the demographic state of affairs in Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. What is the state of Sikhs in Pakistan, or for that matter, you take Afghanistan.
But sir, what is the state of persecuted minorities in Burma?
I visited a church in an underground situation in Lajpat Nagar in Delhi. They are scared to declare the fact that they are Christians because they have come from Afghanistan. Protection is not just for Hindus. It's for all these minorities from Islamic Republic. Let me make that clear. If you open the gates for the whole world to come into India,
this is exactly the point. This is exactly the point which I am trying to make.
Yes, Advocate Gandhi, go ahead.
When we talk about Article 14, this is exactly the point which I am trying to make, because India is a secular nation. Now, what they are trying to say, anybody who is a Muslim, who is fleeing from Pakistan, Bangladesh, or any Hindu, citizenship will be granted on the basis of a religion. How can a secular nation grant citizenship on the basis of a religion? Point number one. Point number two, Shias are being persecuted in Pakistan by Sunnis. So, assuming if a Shia converts to Hindu and flee to India, will they give citizenship? So, what is the yardstick which we are giving? Can we grant citizenship on the basis of somebody being a Hindu? That
No,
makes
the
Hindu
question is not Hindu. The question is Christian. The question is Sikhs. The question is Buddhist. These are all communities. Just don't differentiate and don't create the thing between Hindus and Muslims.
How many Christians and how many Buddhists are living in Pakistan?
And they've all been murdered,
Please
killed,
speak a fact.
persecuted.
So the intention of the
And
act,
you,
the
even
intention of the
United
act is
Nations has
only
not
to have a divisive agenda to say that Muslims.
All right,
This is a
okay,
human
gentlemen.
rights
All right,
issue.
gentlemen. I'm
And you
out
have
of time.
divided it
I'm out
to
of
a
time
Hindu
over here.
Muslim issue.
Nobody
I'm
can
sorry.
hear if we all talk on top of each other. But what we thought we'd do is, as these CAA rules get notified, they have been notified, we bring you a special report on refugees who stand to gain from this act. Watch this special report from Lucknow and Delhi.
A celebration after the government notified CAA rules at Delhi's congested Majnu Ka Tila, where over 100 Hindu families from Pakistan have been living for over a decade. 21-year-old Amar Lal, who came to India in 2013, is passionate about photography but unable to get a solid break because of his refugee identity.
मुझे फ़ोटोग्राफी का बहुत बड़ा शौक़ है और इंस्टीट्यूट में मुझे एडमिशन करने का दिक्कतें उसमें नहीं.
50-year-old Dayal Das, another Majnu Ka Tila resident and a refugee from Pakistan, was so overwhelmed when the CAA bill was passed in Parliament in 2019 that he named his granddaughter Nagrikta or citizenship. Dayal is not employed and his family of 13 residing here have to struggle even for basic amenities. Now, Dayal feels his prayers have been answered.
बहुत वहाँ पाकिस्तान में तो पीड़ा थी, लेकिन वहाँ परिवार बहुत परेशान थे. हम भारत में इसलिए आए थे कि हमारा धर्म, हमारा मुल्क यही है, क्योंकि यहाँ हम हर किसी की समझती सुनवाई होती सरकार की. तो यहाँ आने के बाद हमने 2011 में हमारी परिवार आए थे. उसके बाद हमारा जत्था 483 का आया था. उसके बाद 2019 में सरकार ने सीए बिल पास किया, संसद में भी हो गया, लोकसभा में भी हो गया. हम बहुत खुशी, उस टाइम पे हमारी पोती नागरिकता थी, उसका जन्म हुआ था.
Now these Pakistani Hindu refugee families are celebrating an early Holi. They believe that with CAA rules now being notified, they will be able to lead a better life here now in India.
While the law has been implemented, there are many who don't fall under its ambit, including those who entered India after 2014.
50-year-old Roshan, a Sindhi, entered India from Pakistan with his family of 7 in January 2015 on a travel visa, just days after the CAA citizenship deadline of December 13, 2014. Roshan and his family have been renewing their travel visa every 2 years. To sustain his livelihood, Roshan works as an electrician, while his mother sells homemade papad. Roshan hopes, despite not making the cutoff, citizenship will be granted to his family.
हम तो कह रहे हैं हमको नागजा मिल रहा है, वो तो अच्छी बात है. ये भागदौड़ नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. हमको अच्छा है तो गवर्नमेंट हमको अपना कर ले. यहाँ पे हम रहना चाहते हैं, यहीं पे लौट के नहीं जाएंगे हम तो. हमारा कहना यही है.
Rajasthan has the longest wait list for Indian citizenship from Pakistani refugees who have crossed the border. Rajasthan also has the longest border with Pakistan, over 1,000 kilometers. Before it was fenced, people used to go back and forth. There were relatives living on both sides of the border. There were marriages and alliances that happened on both sides of the border. There is the Hinglaj Mata temple that is in Sindh in Pakistan. But as the dynamics have changed in Indo-Pak relationships, so have the lives of these people.
Rajasthan has the largest number of Pakistani refugees because it has the longest border with Pakistan. In Jaipur, 44-year-old Naresh, who came to India on a train in January 2020, is also hopeful that rules will be relaxed for people like him, and his 5 children will have a chance to go to a government school.
कि वहाँ पे पढ़ना बच्चों के लिए बहुत ढूंढना होता था, इसलिए बच्चों का भविष्य देख के मैं फिर यहाँ पे आ गया।
आपका वहाँ पे घर है?
घर है, मेरा बड़ा भाई है, जमीन है। मैं उन लोगों को भी अब कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि कोई कहीं न कहीं उनको एडजस्टमेंट करके यहाँ बुलाएं।
For many refugees, the CAA rules notification holds immense hope of a better life. Bureau Report, NDTV.